Was that Kool-Aid episode feeding into woke culture or tearing it down?
Normally, we're on the same page, but wow, what a disagreement we had over the best episode.
I don't want to come in hot with this take, but if you don't think farts are funny, you don't know comedy.
And it got a little serious between the appeal of 3-hour Oscar nods versus mega blockbusters.
Lights, camera, action. Red and Red Real Reviews joins the set with the studio on Apple TV.
Ahoy, ladies! Didn't see you there. Would you guys like to set sail on this ocean of flavor?
Randall, look at eye contact. You're gonna be cool, right?
Oh, baby, I'm as cool as the other side of the pillow.
Staring at this board for days.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Act. Bears eat beets.
My brain is on fire. I'm dying.
I am the one who knocks.
Bears. Beets. Battlestar Galactica.
When they say 2% milk, I don't know what the other 98% is.
It's hard to believe we're even the same species.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Oh my god. The microchip has been compromised.
Dracarys.
And welcome back to another episode of Red and Red Real Reviews. So, we're talking about the studio today, and there were tons of opinions and buzz about this show before most people watched it. So a lot of critics were talking about it. They loved it from the get-go. It had a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that was definitely mentioned. But let's be honest, the critics don't always get it right. They don't always agree with the audience. So as real Red people who knows, who know what's genuine, we have to be real with people, right? So is it worth watching?
I'd say yes. It was quick. It was fun. It was smart. Some of the characters got a little dry towards the end, I felt like, but for the most part, they were likable throughout the series. And as far as like the critics saying they liked it, I almost feel like there was a little bit of a Birdman effect where pieces tend to be favored well by the community when they're about the community. Like these people are so in the clouds sometimes. They love watching shows about themselves. They love watching movies about themselves.
I just had deja vu of you. Have we talked about this before?
The show itself?
The fact that when it's a show about something, I think you called it the Birdman effect. Like I just had a deja vu moment. I don't know if
I'm sure I mentioned
about this
it
in another
before
life.
in the past. I may have mentioned it in the past. It's something that's been in my brain for a long time, so it's highly possible I've said it before.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that in detail in one of the topics that we have. But yeah, I thought it was a super easy watch. It was a pleasure to watch. I laughed. I didn't cry or anything. It was pretty lighthearted,
Yeah.
The writing was well done. The acting was well done. It was a nice rolled up package of fun for me. And I'm not even really a Seth Rogen fan. I could kind of take him or leave him. Like I liked him in Knocked Up, but for the most part, I don't love him. But I did think he was good in this. He was very likable. The only thing that I would say as a negative about this show is I have chronic vertigo. And like sometimes when there's a conversation and the camera's going back and forth to get each person's reaction, because you have that one camera way of shooting, it can get a little bit it can make me a little bit woozy.
Herky jerky motion.
Yeah, when they have to get a quick reaction of someone's face, that made me a little bit shaky. But other than that, like I'm not mad at it for that reason. I did think the one camera shooting was really interesting and a cool thing.
Yeah, it was pretty cinematic, and the only thing I really didn't like about it was the ending. I kind of felt like they ended it. The note they ended it on was very, very different from the feel you got throughout the show. So it didn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense. But apart from that, everything the writing was very, very crisp. The comedy was clever, dry at times. So it was, and then some things were even slapstick, which I know we'll get into later.
Yeah, and I think it did partway through the season. It wasn't even done airing the first season and it got picked up for a second season. So maybe it was that confidence that, okay, we know we're going to get a second season. Let's just kind of end it sort of abruptly. And to your point, I do think the side characters kind of lost their momentum. Like, where was the detail with Quinn and Sal towards the last couple episodes of the season, right? It was just kind of dropped.
They had, especially after they had that whole climax of like in a battle arguing over the parking spot in the office and stuff like that, and you figured that was going to continue, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we just assume they're good, they're cool now. I'm like, they hate each other, and she just took his parking spot.
Yeah, then they were kind of buddy after that. So that was sort of dropped. But yeah, I mean, overall, I do think they were confident that they were going to get a second season. So that's why it kind of ended on a random note there where, I mean, I guess we can assume what's going to happen in the second season.
Yeah.
We can take a guess.
I think it would just be more adventures of slapstick and fumbling your way through running a studio.
Right. Which yeah, Patty had some nice comments to Matt about the job he was doing at the end. So I thought that was nice. But speaking of Patty, which is Catherine O'Hara from Home Alone fame and Schitt's Creek. So
she's been doing a lot lately. She's been doing a lot lately.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously we had a lot of star power. Bryan Cranston, like, I would not consider him a cameo because he had a role in this show.
Yeah.
But there were tons of celebrity cameos in this. And of course, since it's about a studio, a fictionalized studio, they want to show the day-to-day with all the celebrities. So they talk about some of the projects that this fictional studio is associated with, that they come up with, the stars that are featured in it. And I mean, I'm not going to mention Charlie D'Amelio or anything like that had like blink if you miss it.
That is.
Yeah, she's a TikToker influencer. So there were a lot of like those kind of cameos, or you'd recognize the people, but you wouldn't know them by name. But like these are I would say, what are like the household names, or who most people know. I don't know if you know everyone on this list, but let's talk about the bigger cameos. We're going to leave out the somewhat obscure ones. So we'll go into detail about what our favorite ones were, but we'll just rattle through the list. There's Dave Franco, Rhea Perlman, who is Danny DeVito's wife. She's also from Cheers. Zoe Kravitz, Adam Scott, who's fresh off of season 2 of Severance, which is another Apple TV show. Gene Smart, Ice Cube, Johnny Knoxville, Josh Hutcherson, Olivia Wilde, Zac Efron, Anthony Mackie, Paul Dano, Steve Buscemi. And there was a funny scene about how to pronounce, is it Buscemi? Some people say Buscemi, some people say Buscemi. And then Charlize Theron made like a very quick appearance. And then there were directors as well. Probably the bigger directors that we know and that most people know is Ron Howard, Martin Scorsese. Eesh. That's another one. Tomato. I don't know. So of all those, I mean, they were in varying degrees. You know, sometimes these celebrities were focused on for like a whole episode. Sometimes it was just again, like a blink and you miss it kind of thing with like Charlize Theron. So I think though the most fun cameo for me, like the highlight, was Dave Franco. He was pretty hilarious. He was like a caricature of himself.
He's someone that like I've heard his name so many times and I'm thinking, but I could never associate him to a past work. So I'm thinking like he's got to be related to James Franco, right?
Oh, they definitely look alike and talk alike. You've never seen Neighbors with Zac Efron, another cameo?
Oh no, I didn't actually. I know Neighbors. Actually, Seth Rogen was in Neighbors too, wasn't
Yes, I
he?
think
Yeah.
he may have written it or created it or produced it or something,
Mhm.
but Neighbors 2 is not worth it. Don't bother.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Dave Franco, like it kind of reminded me of, I don't know if you ever watched Entourage, but
Yeah. Oh yes.
Entourage, when it was good, it was good. If you
Oh, it
know,
was
you
very good.
know.
It was very good.
But remember how Bob Saget and well, I love I speaking about Bob Saget makes me sad because I just
Yes.
realized that he's gone. I come to the realization that he's gone, but he had such a funny cameo. It might have been more than one episode. I'm not sure on Entourage, and he played a caricature of himself. It was like take Bob Saget and just like turn it up to 100. And that was
Yeah.
what the Dave Franco cameo was for me. It was Dave Franco, but it was just the dial was turned way up.
Yeah. Especially when he's tripping on the shrooms.
Yes.
And they're all freaking out that they're tripping on the shrooms and he's like fully immersed in the moment.
Yeah, that was pretty solid. And so I mean that was the absolute highlight for me. And on the other end of it, like I love Zac Efron, but I'm not an Olivia Wilde fan. And I kind of honestly, that episode, I forget what they called it. It was kind of like the Who Done It episode.
Hmm.
I that was probably my least favorite episode of the season. Like I'll just say it. You know, I'm not an Olivia Wilde fan. Like I just kind of laugh when like people are taking her seriously as a director just cuz I saw Don't Worry Darling. I didn't think it was that good. So I don't know. I wanted to love like the Zac Efron episode, but I just wasn't. I don't know. That episode was kind of meh for me. Like of the whole season, it wasn't really it.
It's funny you say that because that was probably my favorite episode.
Really? Why?
I love the film noir thing. I loved like Matthew playing the detective motif and doing the talking the third person voiceover stuff, trying to find this last reel. Um, I found I do find something very appealing about that kind of film noir thing. And then, as a former projectionist and, what feels like a past life at this point, the whole like saving film storyline, like if I don't get this reel, people are never going to go to the movie theaters again and everything will go to streaming, blah, blah, blah. So like I kind of had some nostalgic appeal for that. And Zac Efron was also very, very funny, especially with the whole rap party thing. And he's making a big deal about we have to have the rap party, and then they do it anyway and they don't tell Matthew. And of course, he's over here thinking that Sal's in on being an accomplice in the missing reel because Sal knows about the party too. So I like that. That there was funny there, and there was the way they shot it was very good, and a little bit of nostalgia to my previous lives.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I normally like, film noir stuff, but I don't know. I just and Zac Efron had a couple funny lines, but I just didn't feel like he's been in a lot of comedy movies where he can be really funny and he nails it. And I just didn't
Mm.
really like for me it was just mid, as the kids say. It just like it never really like hit that absolute 10. You know what I mean? For me, it was like a 5. It never got there.
No, I enjoyed that one a lot. And then of course when he's chasing down Olivia Wilde at the end, and he's like, I want this reel because I put this immaculate performance on, but you can't have it. Blah, 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 throwing it up in the air and destroying it. It was I thought that was like a certain amount of over the top. That was pretty funny.
I think too, like when there are really high stakes like that, like when someone can lose their job or they're like trying to fix something that's gone really awry, I just like that stresses me out and I get nervous. So maybe that's another thing because there was like high stakes for that one for Matt, just like, oh shit, what am I going to do if I don't get this film reel? Like, so maybe that's what it was. But I really I really liked the episode with the banquet with the doctors. That episode was one up there for me. Like I just thought it was interesting the whole conversation that Matt was having with the doctors. And then also the of course, we'll talk about it, but episode 9 absolutely hilarious, like start to finish.
You know what's funny about the doctor's episode? Like I like the Johnny Knoxville part, but it kind of felt like an afterthought in the episode, and it felt more focused on the doctor stuff. And I couldn't stand the interactions he was having with the doctors because it felt like they were both having, pardon my language, this dick measuring contest with each other. Like, my job's more important than yours. No, my job's more important than yours. Well, it felt like just look at me bullshit, and I kind of like tune that. I don't like when people kind of put themselves on a pedestal at the expense of someone else. At the expense of someone else's profession.
Yeah, and I mean, I've worked with doctors extensively, so I guess I found it relatable because there is sort of a superiority that some people in the medical profession have, to look down on others like, oh, you don't have a medical degree, so you're not shit. Like, which I thought was an interesting debate that Matt was trying to say, oh, well, art is important,
It's
and
it's funny because like through like all my experiences with doctors and the medical professionals in my family as well, like I've never encountered a stuffy full of themselves doctor. Like they've all been very humble and very skilled on top of that. So
yeah.
like I also have completely the opposite uh experiences with doctors and medical people. So seeing the persona of that on screen also is not remotely relatable to me.
Oh, well, you're hashtag blessed because I've run into some real a-hole doctors. Let's just say that.
Hashtag plus.
Hashtag blessed. Yeah, and so you had a note here that you liked the Ice Cube episode,
I
the
love the Ice
Kool-Aid.
Cube episode. Especially because like it there's certain things that like I abhor about media culture where they walk on eggshells and they can't say things offensive like when you try to
Mm,
cancel a comedian because they're offensive. Welcome to comedy. All comedy. If comedy wasn't offensive, it wouldn't be freaking funny. So
right.
I just absolutely cannot stand that whole like walking around this and we can't talk about that and this sort of thing. So the fact that like there's this back and forth with, oh, we can't do this with the Kool-Aid film and we can't do that, but if we cast it like this, we can't have these people write it. And then he finally goes to talk to Ice Cube at the end, and Ice Cube is just like, so I'm the motherfucking Kool-Aid man. He kind of like shoots down all the nitty picky race stuff they're worrying about. And then on top of that, it turns out at the end, what pisses off Ice Cube and the release audience the most is the fact that they're going to replace people with AI. It wasn't even a race thing to begin with. So it's like you got yourself so hyped up over all this little drama that doesn't matter, and they're actually just worried about everyone's just worried about losing their jobs. Shocker.
Yeah, it kind of sounds. It reminds me of the whole Snow White debacle, with the dwarves, like trying to. That's what happens when you try to please everybody. You know what I mean? You end up pleasing nobody.
Did they not cast dwarves in Snow White?
So,
Was it another time bandits thing?
so I think I forget what happened, but wasn't it originally that they were gonna have? Oh no, they did it. They showed people a screener with all different dwarves, like women too. Or no, some of them were normal height, like all different heights. They weren't dwarves, right? So then people got mad that they didn't cast dwarves, and then they're like, "Oh, so we're gonna do CGI dwarves," which I think is what they ended up doing. I'm not totally sure on the final film. And then the real dwarves were pissed off because then they don't get any work.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Why would you make CGI dwarves?"
I was, when you said they'd change them all to women, I was anticipating the Snow White cast being all Little Women Atlanta.
I miss that show. R.I.P. It's not on anymore. Yeah, but you brought up a great point with the Ice Cube episode where you know, we have this show centered around a fictional studio, so they're poking fun at stereotypes or tropes or things that the public is giving these film studios shit for. So, aside from the kind of the race wars of the Kool-Aid movie episode, what are the other little like winks and nudges that you spotted?
Um, you noticed a lot more of these than I did. I kind of was. I feel like for most of this show, I was watching it from a serious perspective, and less from like analyze like trying to figure out the meaning behind. Like I was kind of like watching it as if it was a scripted thing instead of a pseudo reality show. Um, but the notes you kind of wrote about the 3 hour shows.
Yeah.
I kind of like looked at that in a different sense, only because like I understand the argument Maya's making, where like we just want something to be a blockbuster success. Let's just make a lot of money on it. But when she's saying like nobody wants to sit through a 3 hour serious movie, I'm thinking of the ones that have been done lately. The Brutalist, yeah, it was a little long, but it was an excellent film. And Adrian Brody won an Oscar for it, so it's not
Right.
like it was a 3 hour movie that was hot garbage. And then you have Oppenheimer, which is a 3 hour movie, and it didn't remotely feel like it. It paced along very, very well. So I almost feel like these long movies that get made for nothing other than the Oscar nod, I feel like they got a bad rap from The Irishman, which was probably the first one to try it. And Netflix did it, and that movie kind of got skunked as far as the awards were concerned. But I feel like there's a bad juju around the 3 hour Oscar nod movie when there's been other movies that have tried the strategy more recently, and it's not had the same effect.
Yeah, I mean, I thought of Killers of the Flower Moon, which we watched in the past
Mhm.
year, for award season. Oppenheimer was another 3 hour one. Brutalist, which I argue that the Brutalist didn't have to be so goddamn long. But, and I think that's maybe the point that they're trying to make, where they're literally sitting in the theater at one point and they're like falling asleep, right? They're sitting there in Sal and they're all like, I think they're dozing off or something. And, Matt is,
Well, that was the Ron Howard one. That was the Ron Howard movie. That was because of that one scene. I don't know if
I
that was.
think that was the same one where Matt wanted to cut that one scene, and they're like, okay, well, you're gonna have to tell him. And he didn't want to say anything. And that's where Maya said, you got to be Delulu if you think people are going to watch that, like about a 3 hour movie. And, when they were talking about, they're like, oh, you can't cut that part. That's paramount to the whole story.
I think she was saying you're Delulu because it was something that was so meta to Ron, like some life experience with Ron Howard, that nobody was gonna get it. I think the film that was gonna be super long that Matt wanted to do, I think that was in relation to the Scorsese thing about the Jonestown Massacre versus doing the just a quick blockbuster that was funny and verbose.
Was that the Anthony Mackie thing? Because that was the one that he wanted to tell him to cut.
That was Ron Howard. Anthony Mackie and Ron Howard was the same one.
Okay, so Anthony Mackie was the star of the Ron Howard one. Yeah. So I mean, just that just speaking about like what's appropriate for the length of a movie. And then the thing that Mr. Mill was talking about with Matt was interesting. Like, basically saying we don't make films, we make movies, saying we don't care if it's artsy fartsy
Yeah.
bullshit. Like we just want to make movies and we want to make money. And that's kind of talking about let's just green light whatever's going to make us a bunch of money, like, which is kind of poking fun at and calling attention to, I mean, let's be honest, these Marvel movies, these big meaningless blockbusters that are not great but have a lot of whiz bang boom and special effects. And it's that's something the film studios have been accused of all too often in the past, let's say 10 or 15 years, of just making one blockbuster right after another and trying to make money, not trying to make a good film.
Which it could be I don't want to say in the eye of the beholder, but like from a perspective from a different studio, because we also see when award season comes up, how many films get nominated that the vast majority of the public has never seen, or they never hit wide release in the theaters. So studios do make these artsy fartsy films for acclaim and awards, but there's also the studios that make the big blockbusters to just make a cool few $1 billion, and this is never going to be award, but I don't care because I got a super fat bonus.
Right. And I mean, I think that's sort of tapering off, in my opinion. I think that it seems like the Marvel attempts at blockbusters have kind of slowed down a little bit. I think they understand that they're not going to continue to make money that way. People just aren't really as interested as they once were. And now we have things that people really relate to, like the Minecraft movie, and it's making a shit ton of money because people relate to it so much, and they feel like it's just like this whole chicken jockey thing, which I don't even understand, but people go bullshit for that. So they've had people go bullshit in the theaters. They had one person bring a live chicken into a theater just so they could be like, chicken jockey, like it's some.
What does that even mean? I think I'm a jockey. I think I'm riding a horse. Like
I don't even know. It's some like Minecraft, like silly weird thing. And like again, I'm pretty sure Minecraft movie is rated PG, like maybe PG-13, but pretty sure it's rated PG.
Not even a true kids movie. Yeah.
So the fact that everyone's flocking to the theater to see something like that, and they're making a shit ton of money, the Marvel Studios, Disney, looking at you, Disney. I think they realize that it's not that quick money anymore. Like they're going to have to work for it and really relate to their audience.
Well, and not to go off on too much of a tangent, but I also think there was a slowdown effect with the COVID effect, with people not going out to the movie theaters as much. And I think the industry is trying to get people back to that, but it's going to take some time, and some people aren't going to do it at all. But in the best case scenario, it's going to take some time. But I think that the amount of profit you need to make off of those types of blockbuster movies, because they've got a big cast, there's a lot of special effects, like there's a lot of overhead costs in those type of blockbuster movies, and there's just no profit margin on if it goes to streaming, because everyone's paying for these streaming platforms anyway. So there's no extra money. And Marvel tried to do it with Black Widow. I think they tried to do it with one of the Disney remakes or one of the Pixar movies, where they put it straight to Disney Plus, and like they try to put that extra surcharge on it, but nobody paid the extra surcharge. I'm like, well, screw it, we'll just wait until that's over and you don't care about the film anymore, and it'll be free, or free part of our existing subscription. So I think the slowdown of the blockbusters is just due to the fact that they don't have the profit margin to make those films worth it if it's just going to a streaming provider.
They just haven't figured out what the new way of the new normal. I hate that phrase. The new way of doing things is, and that's kind of what it seems like Matt, the character of Matt is wrestling with in the studio. So another thing that I thought was funny, and that really applies to what we do here at Red and Red Real Reviews, is Matt arguing at the doctor's party that movies are art. And then one lady laughably says, "You want art, you watch TV. Have you seen The Bear?" And I was dying because, of course, we've covered The Bear before, but it's that other debate too that's really surfaced over the past, I would say, 5 or 10 years, where everyone knows now and can acknowledge that TV is like the preferred art because you have, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was never the case for a huge actor. Think your Robert De Niro's, think your Jack Nicholson kind of actors. It was it was career suicide for them to do a TV show. That's like, okay, you're running out of money. You're pathetic.
Yeah,
Now
TV shows
it's
were mindless entertainment.
right. Now it's, you have TV where an episode of TV has the better, even I would say, production value than a movie. So you really have, like, if you have a 6 to 10 episode series, each episode of 45 minutes or an hour long is like a movie in itself, and it's that good quality. So we've really switched how we think about TV and what TV looks like, that it is kind of, coming up there, like in film is kind of struggling down here.
There's an irony of that to me, because as we've discussed off air in the past, as far as like trying to plan out when we release our reviews, there's a time commitment with a TV show, especially when they don't drop all at once.
Yeah.
Where, like, people have to show a commitment to a TV show. A movie drops, you watch the movie, you're done. So it's so strange to me. Like, the irony of it is the fact that people prefer to watch something that they have to continuously keep up with. And especially, like I said, with shows not being as bingeable because you can't get them all at once. The fact that that's what people prefer, they prefer the commitment to it over something they just watch one shot and it's done, and then they can either forget about it, talk with their friends about it, whatever the case may be.
Right. People can't just let it go. They have that connection to it. And that's why you have so many limited series, that some we've covered that are intended to be a limited series. And then it comes out that they're renewed because they actually have to extend the story because people want more. And they're like, wait, I don't want this to end. It's too good to end. And with movies, I mean, yes, you have Lord of the Rings started this trend where you shoot more than one movie at once, and then you can kind of stagger the releases. So like Wicked took that playbook. So they had a movie come out last year, and then they're going to have a movie come out a year later around the same time. I think they filmed them around the same time. So, studios are doing that to try to make it easier to like kind of mass release those movies. But even so, it's not really as gratifying or as satisfying or as quick as a TV show can be shot and produced and edited and all that stuff done. Well, I mean, we're not talking about the shows that take 3 years in between seasons. We're not excluding those shows.
Yellowstone.
Right. Stranger Things. I have something in my throat. It's an interesting debate, the whole like TV versus film battle. It's just an ever changing argument.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because when a movie is disappointing, okay, it was 2 hours of your life, it's done with it, you move on. When a TV show is disappointing, that's 10 weeks of your life, or 3 years, 8 years of wonderful Game of Thrones and 1 year of disaster. And it's just like you'd think that would irritate people more, investing so much time with the potential of being let down versus investing 2 hours and being let down.
Right. I mean, it can be like downright heartbreaking when you watch a show and it's on for 5, 6, 7 seasons and then it ends and you're just like that's it after all this time.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been through a few of those and it's heartbreaking.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, I mean, in the same token, this I guess could be construed as maybe a little bit of an eye roll to some people, but I actually I think they're poking fun at the concept, and that's what they're making fun of with this. The You referenced the Ice Cube episode about the Kool-Aid movie, and when they go to think about it, they're thinking it's problematic that the cast for Kool-Aid is all black, right? I think that's the original thing. They stop to think about it and they're like, wait, is that wrong? And then as they start trying to think of ways they can correct that imbalance, they're just kind of making it worse. And it's just worse in different ways. So, I mean, I think, at least I hope that what they were getting at is sort of poking fun at diversity in movies and what's appropriate. And, are we just going crazy by thinking about this too much? Like, why don't we just do what makes sense? And why don't we just cast who's the best for this role rather than thinking about it as checking a box? I mean, I would like to think that that's what they're making fun of, but I wasn't totally sure. Like, what was your take on that?
I mean, it's possible, and even if they do it completely accidentally, Hollywood does have an occasional track record of making a caricature of themselves. So I kind of feel like, and especially with this show being a little over the top as far as the humor, I feel like it is very possible that they could have done this making fun of the whole white guilt thing, which which would almost make me happier than a pig in shit, because white guilt is so freaking ridiculous. Like, if you just like if you just like spend some time hanging out with black people, you'll find that you don't have to worry about tiptoeing around this subject and tiptoeing around that subject. Just hang out and have fun with the person, like you would hang out with someone that looks like you, and it's like, and then you realize, like, okay, I like this person, okay, I don't like this person, maybe they're just an acquaintance, maybe they want to be a good friend, you know what I mean? So if you just focus on that instead of like, what can I say, what can't I say,
Yeah.
oh, this is bad, this is taboo, it becomes nauseating at a certain point.
Well, it's like in the situation with this situation, it's like the more that you try not to make it weird, it's going to be weird. So like at first, when I don't remember who it was that said it, it might have been Matt who said, like, why do we feel weird about this? Or why is this problematic all of a sudden to have an all black cast for a Kool-Aid movie? And I think it's Matt that says, oh, maybe it's white guilt. And I'll admit that when I first heard that, I was kind of like, are we seriously doing this?
Are we doing this? Yeah.
And then the more the scene progressed, I was like, okay, I think they're poking fun at it. I don't think they're saying that seriously, which I sort of gave it the benefit of the doubt, and I'm glad I did, because I'm pretty confident that that's where they were going with it.
That was it was a very good episode, and to that point, Ice Cube does throw it back in his face. Like, no, that's not a freaking problem. Like, I'm the Kool-Aid man, like he does throw it back in his face, and then Matt's like, oh, thank you, oh, thank the Lord, oh, everything's cool, everything's cool, blah, 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 which I think is also the humor of the irony with the whole AI thing, is the fact that, like, oh, we're good now, we're happy, and then he winds up stepping in it again.
Yeah, it's just an ironic situation. But yeah, that was hilarious, the way that Ice Cube was like so irritated.
Yeah.
Like, what
he was more irritated. Yeah. He was more irritated that Matthew was coming to him asking him those things.
Yeah,
instead of the fact that he did them.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And speaking of funny stuff, so Seth Rogen, he created this show with his friend Evan Goldberg. Evan Goldberg wrote Superbad, Pineapple Express. He helped produce a bunch of these comedies with Seth Rogen, which I think they also produced Neighbors and things like that. So the show was pretty heavy on the comedy, and there were so many funny moments, and not necessarily always lines, but and like I said, the 9th episode was just start to finish fantastic. You had Dave Franco going off the rails. You had Zoe Kravitz thinking it had been hours when it had been 30 seconds. And then Bryan Cranston, he's supposed to be 82 years old as Mr. Mill. And every shenanigan of Mr. Mill in that episode was just like chef's kiss, like phenomenal, hilarious. Him carrying around the lobster, him, calling Patty, he's like, oh, it's the bitch of all bitches. When they were dressing, it might have been the 10th episode when they were dressing him in that little like Speedo thing. I was just, all the Mr. Mill moments, I was just dying.
The best funny thing he did was with the lobster when he sat down at the blackjack table, and he's like putting it forward as a bet, and the blackjack dealer just looks at him. It's like, sir, you can't bet a lobster. He's like, oh, what? Why?
It was just so. When he was like awake, he was hilarious, and then when he was like out of it, he was so like Weekend at Bernie's.
They said they even mentioned directly that they were going to Weekend at Bernie's the presentation.
Yeah. That's why I thought it was funny.
Yeah, and the Patty thing, I noticed that when it was happening, I didn't think of it writing my notes down, but the Patty thing, like, this was a very silly off the wall episode, but the Patty thing kind of turned it on a dime and kind of gave a serious note, because she's like, oh, okay, I'm the bitch of all bitches. Okay, so she's calling this douchey podcaster, journalist, whatever he is, and she's going to blow up his spot as he's, whacking off that statue in the Venetian or whatever the hell he was doing. Like she's going to blow up his spot and, take his job, or, take Matthew's job, or whatever the case may be. And then that wound up being a whole situation to like walk back because of the Amazon acquisition. But like that little extra note of seriousness in it to kind of make the episode more than just slapstick funny.
Yeah, that whole episode was so funny. I wrote down, various quotes that were funny. Maya was pretty funny. I feel like Catherine Hahn, who she's also from what's the WandaVision? Is that the name of the show? WandaVision.
She had a lot.
She had a spinoff that I didn't watch, I'll admit. But when she's in like a comedy, because she's been in Step Brothers. Yeah, Step Brothers. Yeah. She always plays like an unhinged, like psychotic, like over-sexualized woman in almost pretty much every comedy movie that she plays in. So she's just, yes, she is typecast a little bit in that stuff, but she just nails it every time. Like the moment where she was just like struck by like Matt taking charge of like this mess of a situation with Mr. Mill and the Comic-Con, and so she was just like, oh my god, you're so hot, and she like just starts making out with him. He's like, what the hell is going on?
At the end, I can't remember if they're on stage yet at the end or not, but there was one point where like they almost started to make out again, and he's like, no, stop, we can't do this.
Yeah.
It's funny, like I always think of her not from the bit roles, but there was this show on Hulu that she got a lot of acclaim for, where she was like she had a child very early, and her ex-husband or baby daddy or whatever, like she was trying to rekindle the relationship with him, but he didn't want anything to do with her because he was so unhinged. And that wasn't necessarily a comedy; it was a little more serious. But that's what I think of with her.
That was a drama. Yeah, I can't think of the name of it either. I watched that too, I'm pretty sure. I think I know what you're talking about. But yeah, I just think of her as there was some other movie with was it Jeremy Piven where they played like car salesmen and she was nuts. And yeah, and then I mean I just think of her in Step Brothers as Adam Scott's wife, which there was some like at the Golden Globes episode was funny too because of
I love the Golden
the
Globes.
whole thing where every celebrity started thanking Sal. It became a whole thing of the night. And Matt's kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah, and it was that I found so funny because it's Adam Scott just saying something random like, "Hey, thanks for letting me sleep on your couch all those years ago." So like you said, it just becomes this like chain reaction where
Yeah.
everyone has to thank Sal, and that's just infuriating Matthew more and more and more as it continues to happen. So he's trying to like he goes to Zoe Kravitz at first, and she's like very opposed. He's got the whole thing planned out already, and and he tries to like insert his name into the teleprompter, so she just
Yeah.
says it by just reading the prompter instead of thinking about it. She gets that more mad at him. So he's over here like he gave up. She's not gonna say my name, and then she says his name, but the mic cuts out, so nobody hears Matthew Remick or whatever his name was. So I was like, that is perfect. He put so much effort, he wasn't gonna get it, and then she gave him the cherry on top, and nobody heard it.
Yeah, that was the perfect irony. And
Yeah.
there were so many bit cameos with celebrities in that Golden Globe scene. Like they had, I think they showed her in the background. It was like Jean Smart. I think she might have said Sal's name in her speech. And then they had the actors from The Boys, the lead guy and the female introducing an award in that scene, but they didn't like show them up close or anything. So that was another scene. They had tons of crazy cameos. But yeah, that whole shtick with thanking Sal, and then at the end of the episode, Matt just kind of is in the limo by himself, which Patty said that's how sometimes she would end the night, is crying in the limo by herself. So we see Matt kind of looking sad in the limo.
Yeah, and almost it's weird. Like this was a very funny show. I laughed a lot, but I didn't really write down any quotes. The one I actually did write down was at the Globes. He's on the phone with his mother the whole time because she like wants to hear his name on TV, and I think that's what's driving his obsession with getting a shout out. But at one point, she must have asked him something about Jennifer Lawrence, and he says Jennifer Lawrence is here, and I will not tell her to go with a shorter hairline.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was fine. Because I know I'm trying to remember, like, what did Jennifer Lawrence do that she had short hair in?
She chopped her hair off at some point. I don't remember what that was for. I don't know if it was for a certain role. I mean, that's happening now. You have Brie Larson and Emma Stone both have really short hair now. My opinion, it's just not working, guys. Sorry. It's not
our old pixie cut debate.
Stop trying to make the pixie cut happen. It's not going to happen. Like even with pretty ladies, sorry, it just doesn't work, dude.
Yeah, you look like a boy.
You look like a boy. Yeah. So now I haven't shown this side of me before in the show, and some people might be kind of shocked by it, but I wanted to be clear about this. So if there is something in any show or movie about farts, I will probably laugh at it, and I am not above it. And that's usually what makes me silent laugh. Like when you're laughing so hard that you're actually silent, you're not making any sound. And this show had a great fart mention moment. So the Johnny Knoxville movie, The Apocalypse, when they were talking about the trailer, and I think this might have been in the doctor episode because Matt was on the phone continuously, like with the editor, saying how he wanted the trailer to appear. So the whole premise of the movie, which is like ridiculous, but this is how real movies are. Like, let's be honest. The movie is about zombies infecting people like with diarrhea or something. So
Yeah.
when Matt is on the phone at this is the millennial sign for being on the phone, even though it's probably a flip phone, but he's on the phone, and I guess it would be more like this, right? So he's on the phone and he's telling them to edit it, and he says, make the fart really wet sounding, really juice it, all right? And I was dying at that because farts are funny. I'm sorry. I hate to say it, but farts are funny.
Well, that just means you're a normal person laughing at flatulence. Um,
but if you don't think farts are funny, then are you a human person with real feelings and emotions?
No, you're not. Period.
Exactly.
I think what also made that funny when he's yelling over the phone about it is the fact that he's at that doctor's gala. So everyone's dressed to the nines and they're bidding thousands of dollars on all this charity stuff. So he's yelling juice it up, make it wet sounding, that sort of thing. And he's around all these people that are like the upper crust of society.
Right. And he had just talked about how my job is so important. Like, maybe I don't save lives, but my job is important too. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, juicy fart.
Yeah. So, I mean, there were so many funny moments. I couldn't write everything down, but with the ending, it did kind of leave it open. And the fact that they're playing along with Mr. Mill, because he's as good as dead pretty much. And he's, they start that movies chant and then it just kind of ends on that note. Movie. Yeah, it's like, what could be more generic than starting a movies chant? Like, oh, movies are cool, movies are good. Like,
my issue with that is that this whole series is like about Matthew is this lovable loser character. And even when things go right, 18 things went wrong in between it finally going right. So for them to have this kind of feel good happy ending, the Amazon merger's not going through and Continental's gonna be reborn, and that's that didn't feel like the emotion that was around the show. It felt like they were really stumbling and bumbling to their endpoint. They're just a bunch of they're kind of just a bunch of nincompoops that don't really belong in these executive positions. They kind of get where they're going to by accident, on accident, whatever's
no, it's by accident. I'm part of the by accident team.
Okay.
On accident makes me cringe, but no, I mean, I kind of think it wasn't really a sort of resolution. We assume that these movies that they have lined up, the Dave Franco movie, the Darkwing or whatever the Zoe Kravitz thing was, all the things they had lined up in that Comic-Con presentation, we can assume that that's what's going to get them out of this having to sell to Amazon thing.
Yeah.
But we don't know for sure. So I think that's what the next season is really going to be about, is okay, we're doing so well. Oh no, then this one thing comes up. So are we going to have to sell? Oh no, are we going to lose our jobs? I think there's going to be some tension surrounding that. I don't think it's as cut and dried as it appears, but yeah, it was sort of an anticlimactic ending to just end on, okay, well, we got ourselves out of this little debacle with Mr. Mill being drugged out of his mind in public, but are we really out of the woods yet? Probably.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah. Oh, happy time. Well, it's not really that happy. You just made it happy.
Right. But we hope you had a happy time with us. So if you enjoy listening to our show, we would appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star review and let us know what you think of each episode. If you have any questions or comments, email us at redandredrealreviews@gmail.com. Also, make sure to follow along with us on Instagram and TikTok. He is Nutmeg2Palmetto, the number 2. And I am Binge the Ginge with dots between the words for Instagram, not for TikTok. As always, you can find video episodes on YouTube and Rumble with our sparkling ginger faces. And you can stream us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Next up, we were really big fans of Succession when it was on, and there's a new movie called Mountainhead on HBO Max by the creator of Succession. And it has our buddy Steve Carell in it from 4 Seasons, which we just covered, among other big names. I think there's Jason Schwartzman, if you can pronounce that. So tune in for that movie and we'll have a chat about it. So until the next Real Review, Red and Red signing out.
In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world.
Don't act so surprised, Your Highness.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
What? Do what?
No. Try not. Do. Or do not.
Because I don't want no scrubs.
Let the dogs out, you know, like, who let the dogs out? Who?
Who brought this guy along?
I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chump some of this shit.
One more thing. Do me a favor. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
I'll take care, all right? None but love. None but love.
Have any clue what's about to happen to him?
Oh, not a chance in hell. Good night.
Peace! Fire, you son of a...
You did it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did it. Hey,
It's not funny anymore.
Chelsea references. Still nothing. I swear to you.
But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.